Texas has a fantastic marketing department that convinced thousands of Americans to move there last year for cheap land and barbecue. What they didn't mention is that cheap land is about 2 hours away from a grocery store, and all the wildlife there sees you as something they'd like to bite. Not everyone loves it in Texas. A lot of people that made that move are realizing they've made a massive mistake. If you don't want to be one of them, there's some information you need to have. Today we're covering 10 things you won't find on other YouTube channels about moving to Texas. Let's take a look. Number 10, the fire ant nightmare. If you've ever had to deal with Texas fire ants, this one's really going to hit home. Fire ants in Texas aren't just satisfied with invading your lawn and turning your barefoot yard work into an emergency room trip. They frequently nest inside air conditioning units, utility boxes, traffic signal equipment, and other electrical housing. They can chew insulation, move soil into the switching mechanisms, and cause short circuits or mechanical failures. Altogether, fire ants are estimated to cause $12 million in electrical equipment damage every year in Texas. These things suck in a big way. Like I said, if you've ever lived in Texas and dealt with these things, you know this one is a real issue. But apparently these insects have decided the state's power infrastructure could use another challenge. Have you ever had a run-in with these little bastards? I have. Tell me about your experience with the fire ants in the comment section. But in Texas, the ants don't merely ruin picnics. They like to shut down air conditioning units in summer. But it's not just that. They can also damage vegetable gardens by feeding on potatoes and developing pods, especially during hot, dry conditions. Controlling them isn't as simple as just spraying whatever chemical that happens to be in the bottle. Products must be specifically labeled for areas being treated, especially around vegetables, pets, and electrical equipment. So if you move to Texas, before the summer starts and all through the summer, check outdoor air conditioning units, utility boxes, and irrigation control for ant activity. If you find them, call an electrician and a licensed pest control professional. This can do a lot of damage, especially if you're a little bit older, retiree, you're trying to enjoy your retirement, and your air conditioning gets cut off or your power gets cut off in the middle of jeopardy. What are you going to do then, Marvin? Sweat one out all night till the electrician and the air conditioning guy can get there? And we all know in summer, trying to get an air conditioning guy to come to your house is next to impossible. Number 9, you better like fireworks. Texas has more fireworks seasons than some states have actual seasons. The Texas fireworks sales are automatically allowed during Independence Day and New Year's periods, but counties can authorize additional selling seasons. Depending on the county, you could see fireworks on Texas Independence Day, San Jacinto Day, Memorial Day, Juneteenth, Lunar New Year, and of course Cinco de Mayo. Local governments and counties can still restrict where fireworks are used or halt them completely during fire conditions. So moving to Texas means periodically you're just going to hear explosions and not know whether it's a religious holiday, a historical event, or your next door neighbor's poor judgment. Now, they have outlawed things like M80s, the really more dangerous ones, but people still use them all the time. I say this because a lot of veterans don't really like fireworks too much, and we all know our dogs hate them. So if you're coming from a state where they only use them on 4th of July, and that's usually a big event where your dogs are all freaking out like in my house, you're gonna see more days like that. Interesting thing about San Jacinto Day, they built a monument there to, commemorate Sam Houston basically saving the Texas Republic. Well, back when they decided to erect this monument, the United States had some rules. No tower like that, no monument could be taller than the Washington Monument. So they showed the plans for the tower and the US government said, fine, we'll give the go-ahead on this. And it was a few feet shorter than the Washington Monument. In true Texan style, they decided they weren't going for that. So they put a nice big platform on the bottom of the monument, which makes it about 12 to 15 feet taller than the Washington Monument. If you go visit it on San Jacinto Day, you're going to see some fireworks. Number 8, Texas has governments hiding inside other governments. Many Texas developments sit inside special purpose districts that can levy property taxes, charge fees, and issue debt. These may include municipal utility districts, public improvement district, emergency service districts, and other government creatures with names that sound harmless until the tax bill arrives or something. We have some BS like that here in Portland, Oregon. You got the city government, you got the state government, you got the county government, and then you get this extra layer called Metro. They do a bunch of things the city and the county can do, but this way, the city and the county can blame all the extra taxes on somebody else. I mean, you already got 3 or 4 levels of government living in my neighborhood. You might as well have a 5th, right? But in Texas, a subdivision may advertise a relatively low base tax rate, while several smaller districts wait backstage holding calculators. So before buying a home in Texas, get a complete list of taxing entities for the exact property you're buying. Don't just go for the one number they tell you about in the sales brochure. Number 7, living outside the city limits isn't always the freedom festival you imagined. Texas counties, in most cases, have more limited land use authority than in the cities. But that doesn't mean unincorporated land is completely unregulated. County subdivisions got rules, plats, private deed restrictions, and have some control over what happens on your property. So if you're going to start erecting your own monument to Cheetos and it's 3 feet taller than the San Jacinto monument, they're going to come over and shut you down. You may be free to build your dream workshop while the person next door is equally free to begin storing 47 retired school buses. Read all the recorded deed restrictions before buying any property in Texas. Investigate the current and permitted use of surrounding parcels. Visit the properties on weekdays, evenings, and weekends. No zoning sounds exciting until somebody else also has no zoning. The last thing you want is to own a piece of property and a religious cult buys around your property, like a horseshoe-style property, and you're in the middle. And they like to chant and ring their bells. Number 6, that farming acreage may come with a tax time machine. Rural listings frequently advertise agricultural valuation as though the property has been granted permanent immunity from ordinary taxes. In reality, agriculture or open space appraisals depends on the use. In a nutshell, it gets a lower tax rate and some tax breaks because it's a farm or a ranch. Stop doing that kind of activity and let's say build your dream home on there, well, you're going to change your tax situation. Because when a land stops being used for farming or ranching, the county may come looking for rollback taxes also. That means you could owe the difference between that cheap agricultural tax value and the regular market value from the previous 3 years. So your peaceful 5-acre dream property may come with goats, sunsets, fresh air, and a surprise bill from 2024. Before buying, make sure the land actually qualifies for the agricultural tax break. Don't just trust the words Ag-Exempt in the listing. I mean, other real estate listings describe sheds as cozy little guest cottages. And make sure you find out whether building a house, opening a business, or dividing the property into smaller lots would change how the land is classified. Number 5, your employer may not carry workers' compensation. Texas does something a little different when it comes to workers' compensation. Most private employers can decide whether they want to participate or not. These companies are called non-subscribers, which sounds harmless until a forklift introduces itself to your ankle. Some of these employers offer their own injury plans, but those plans may not cover the same medical bills, lost wages, or legal protections as the regular workers' comp. This may not seem like a big deal if you're working in a call center or a accounting firm, but if you're working construction, trucking, manufacturing, warehouses, that's a little bit different. A rule of thumb, if it includes a hard hat, make sure they have some workers' comp. Don't accept the "we treat our employees like family here" as proof they're going to take care of you when you break your leg. With these companies, read the employee handbook carefully. It may contain more plot twists than the actual interview. Now, to some of you in certain states, this may not sound like a big deal, but if you're coming from like California or Oregon or a few other states, it is a very big deal. It's almost like workers' comp rules the whole state. Number 4, public sector workers have a different labor system. Texas, like North Carolina, has laws that prohibit strikes and organized work stoppages by public employees. You could still participate in one, but there's going to be serious employment consequences just for participating. This is a very important adjustment for teachers, sanitation workers, government employees, and others moving from other states where public sector unions negotiate binding contracts or use strike threats as leverage. So you get a nice government job in Texas, you think you're living the good life, and then you're not living the good life because, let's say, they decided to get away from bathroom breaks. You're hosed. You gotta pee in a cup the rest of your time working there because the union can't go in and threaten a work stoppage to change the new policy. Actually, that's an extreme example. I'm sure if you did that, the state would come in. But other things, like you used to pay $400 a month for healthcare, but they decided they wanted to add an extra zero on just because. Now, there's about 13 states in the union that are like this. If you're moving from a state that is not like this, like California or New York, it may be a bit of a culture shock. So definitely, if you're moving to Texas and you're going to take a public job with the government or something like that, read the whole employment package, not just the advertised salary. Review grievance and termination procedures. If you're a person that works in the public sector and you're, choosing between Texas or another state that doesn't, restrict union type activities, this might be a deal breaker. Number 3, Texas public schools can still paddle your kids. Yes, corporal punishment is still permitted in Texas public schools when local school districts allow it. Not every school district lets their staff paddle your children. Honestly, if I found out my kid was paddled at school, I'd bring my own paddle down to the school and dish one out to the principal or teacher, whoever decided that was necessary. I think this is the most bizarre thing I've ever read in the time that I've been making videos, that strangers at a school can paddle your child. Now, I'm not some hippie guy that thinks no child should ever be paddled or anything like that. I don't think paddling's necessary. I think giving a swat on the butt, maybe. I think my kids all had one their entire life when they did something at a young age. That way they knew the consequences for doing something stupid. But to have a stranger do it and the whole state be okay with it, that's just frickin' weird to me. But state law defines it as deliberately inflicting physical pain by hitting, paddling, spanking, slapping, or using physical force as discipline. Parents can submit a signed written statement prohibiting the school from using this on their child, but newcomers shouldn't assume the policy disappeared sometime around the invention of the colored TV. In some districts, the principal's office can still contain both a computer and discipline equipment from a 1950s sitcom. Read the district student code of conduct before enrolling your child. Check the individual district's policy because practices may vary locally. Submit a written opt-out directly to the district and keep a copy. Don't just assume telling the teacher you don't want your kids smacked around is gonna cut it. They need to have it in writing. That whole thing just seems so weird to me. Like I said, I think my kids got one spanking each in their life. They all turned out okay. One's a nurse, the other two are military. Nobody ended up in jail or rehab for that matter. God, that's just a weird one. Number 2, toll roads have their own bureaucratic multiverse. Texas doesn't operate every toll road through a simple statewide billing system. Different regions may have different authorities, accounts, notices, and enforcement procedures. In the Austin area alone, drivers can encounter separate toll systems, entirely different ones. The registered vehicle owner may remain responsible even when someone else was driving. In North Texas, repeat unpaid tolls can eventually lead to habitual violator enforcement. This includes registration problems and restrictions on the vehicle. The toll itself may only be $2, but the administration adventure can become a full-length documentary. Make sure you're aware of this, because if you come from a state that doesn't have any toll roads or anything like that, California, Oregon come to mind, this may just trip you out. You're like, what is going on here? In the South Bay where I grew up, we had a bridge that was the only toll I've ever seen in my life when I was young. It was the Vincent Thomas Bridge. Someone did a study and found out the tolls collected were just enough to keep the toll collector people employed, meaning they had a toll booth there and the state or the city weren't making any money. So they just eliminated the tolls entirely, put like 12 people out of work. Just keep this in the back of your mind and make sure you open up all the mail and the email that look like they're coming from some kind of Texas transportation board or something. That's not junk mail. All right, before we get to number 1, if you want to move to Texas, there's a link for Home and Money in the description area below. They can get you in touch with a Texas real estate agent or any state you decide is your next home. All right, on to number 1. And number 1, Texas may consider you married without a wedding. Texas recognizes you as hitched even though you didn't go before a priest and sign a license. This is commonly called common law marriage. There are 3 elements for this to exist. The couple agreed to be married, they live together in Texas as a married couple, or have a history of telling other people they're married. Simply living together doesn't automatically create a marriage, but couples who meet all 3 requirements may have a legally recognized marriage even without a ceremony or a marriage license. So that means property acquired during that marriage may be treated under Texas law as community property. We're basically married is one of those phrases that deserves a little more precision in Texas. So watch who you say that to, especially if you own a bunch of land and you've been living with some girl for 2 years that never put a dime into it, or vice versa, a guy. Couples buying property together should understand how ownership is recorded in this state. A breakup involving an informal marriage may require a divorce and property division. So, should you move to Texas? Texas can still be a good move for the right person. It has a huge economy, enormous geographic variety, major job markets, and communities ranging from dense urban neighborhoods to rural counties where the nearest neighbor can be a suspicious-looking cow. Thing is, Texas isn't just one giant uniformed rule book. Make sure you do your research. Examine the full tax bill, deed restrictions, government districts, school policies, job protections, vehicle rules, and every contract placed in front of you. Everyone have a great day. Be nice to each other.